James' call is to consider it pure joy. That call was not written to all people. That's not a word for America or a word for Portland. That is a word for the family of God, for brothers and sisters under God the Father. The joy he's writing about does not make any sense at all unless you are a follower of Jesus, not because we are better than anyone around us who is secular or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever, but because we live by a very different worldview and system of meaning than the secular city we call home. Tim Keller, in his book, Walking with God Through Pain and Suffering, has a great section on kind of the 5 major worldviews: Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, animist, and secular. And he makes a very compelling case that the secular Western worldview is the least equipped to deal well with pain and suffering because it has no meaning to assign to it. In a Darwinian materialist worldview, there is no meaning or purpose to life in general beyond survival of the fittest. Life just is. As Malcolm said, life finds a way. It's just an accident. Now, of course, the human brain literally can't live without meaning. We have to make meaning at a neurobiological level, religious or not. Well, we're all religious or not, Christian or not. Philosophers talk about discovered meaning versus developed meaning. Discovered meaning is meaning that comes from outside yourself, that is transcendent. For us as followers of Jesus, we discover the meaning and purpose of our life in the life and teachings of Jesus, in Scripture, and through prayer with the inner life of the Trinity that we call God. But our secular friends, many of whom are wonderful people, at a coherent worldview level, don't believe in discovered meaning, so they have to default to developed meaning, because again, we have to have a meaning to live. Developed meaning is meaning that you self-generate based on your own inner sense of self, your opinions, your desires and likes and dislikes. Your meaning might be, Steve Jobs to make a dent in the universe, or, Elon Musk to make humans into an interplanetary species, or it might be a little bit more modest, like I just want to retire early and eat and drink all the time, or whatever it is. It might be your family, it might be your career, it might be fame, it might be to change your industry, it might be to invent something, it might be social justice. It could be any number of things that you self-generate, but it comes from inside you, not outside you, and it's not transcendent. But for most people in our city, the default meaning of life, our city is not a careerist city, it's not a celebrity city. For most people in our city, the default meaning of life beyond survival is pleasure. Or in more American language, it is the pursuit of happiness. For most people, how often do you hear, well, I just want to be happy, right? Or that's for most of us in our city is the meaning of life. But inside a secular worldview, and here's where this is coming together, where for most people, happiness is the default meaning of life. At best, suffering is an interruption to the meaning of life. If not, in the case of a problem that you can't fix, like death or a disease that does not go away, a permanent blockage to happiness and the meaning of life. Willamette Weekly's current edition, I don't know if any of you read that over the last few days, it's entitled 2020, Everyone is Struggling with Mental Health. Here's Our Guide to Finding Peace. Now, the last place I would ever look for wisdom about finding peace is the Willamette Weekly. If you're a Portlander, you know what I'm talking about. But I read it just for that. I read it on a regular basis just to stay in tune with our city. And it's full of practical advice on finding peace, a lot of great ideas from, the usual suspects: mindfulness, therapy, lemon juice for breakfast, of course, yoga, exercise, walking in the grass first thing in the morning. That was nice. There's actually science behind that. 2, there was an entire article on psychedelic mushrooms. Welcome to Portland. And there was another entire article on why you should eat mac and cheese at 2 a.m. in a pro-quarantine 15 case, right? And there's some great stuff in there. I'm not joking, it was there. But there was nothing about finding meaning and purpose through it, nothing about growth as a person into maturity through it, and not a word about living in community and relationship through it. Nothing. Here's how you balance your chi, here's how you start your morning, here's the right diet, here's the right drug or mushroom or pot place or whatever. Nothing. But how we live through this with meaning, purpose, grow, mature, and stay together in relationship. Again, that's not to say we're better than anyone else. It's just to say, listen, as followers of Jesus, we live by a very different worldview than the Willamette Weekly, than our city, by a whole other vision for what life is about. Hence, James called to do a little math. There's a saying in the business world, what gets measured gets valued. When what you measure and value is pleasure, 2020 is a colossal loss. But when what you measure and value are things like maturity in relationships, in the worldview of the New Testament, where the most important thing is the person you become and the relationships you engender over a lifetime. You are first and foremost a relational soul, not just a pleasure machine in a body. Right? The most important thing in life is who you become and who you become that person with. In that value system, 2020 has the potential to come out as a net gain. In fact, to launch us forward into what really matters.